So, episodes, Green Wing, Postman Pat, and now birthday. Stephen Mangan, the actor, is here. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello,
sir.
good afternoon.
I wasn't sure which order to put things in, so I just put them in that order.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you call me an actor.
You are
I get
an
called,
actor.
Well, I get called a comedian a lot, which I very definitely am not, as you're about to discover.
Well, when I sat and watched Birthday, this is it was a play. It was a stage play in which you starred as well. But it's basically about a man who gives birth. Yeah, and initially I thought that actor. What is funny? That funny actor Stephen Mangan is in this, and I expected just comedy and just lots of wry observation about what happens when it's a man giving birth. But I actually found it very moving.
Yeah, I think it is different, because when I first heard the idea, man gives birth, I thought, oh, that joke will wear thin after about 2 minutes. I mean, you think of Arnie in Junior and how terrible that was. And I think the reason it works, and I'm incredibly proud of this, I think it's one of the best things I've ever been involved with, is that it is a proper examination in a comedic way, but also in quite a in-depth, serious, emotional way of what it's like to be in the bed and give birth, what it's like to be the person standing by the bed. I mean, in the drama, my wife has had a child. We've had a child before that she gave birth to. So we talk about that, what it was like for me to watch her birth. And I think that period, those few hours leading up to the birth, when you're in that room in the hospital, and there are contractions every now and again, but
Something monumental is about to
something
happen, but it hasn't yet.
monumental and terrifying, and you're nervous and you're frightened and you're anxious, but at the same time it can be a little bit boring at times because it goes on. I say that, fully
You've got
aware.
Is it two kids?
Yes,
Yep.
2 kids. Fully aware that what's boring for a man may not be boring for the woman who's about to give birth. But
Well, she's doing something, isn't she?
she's doing something, and your life is about to change. Your relationship is about to change. A couple's relationship is about to undergo, and it's a really fascinating. I mean, roller coaster is a cliched way of putting it, but it is a roller coaster, and it's not ever examined. I don't know of any other dramas or any other comedies that tackle those few hours.
No, and in a serious way. Clearly, there's humour, there's dark humour in it, but there's lots of serious feeling in it as well.
Yeah,
isn't there? And fear.
Well, the fear is, all too real, isn't it? And it's a sense of powerlessness, especially if things go wrong. You wonder if you're that important to everyone else, because if you're having a baby or your partner is having a baby, it's clearly one of the most important days of your life. But for everyone else working there, it's just another day at the office.
Did you watch One Born Every Minute, or have you watched One Born Every Minute? Because that not dramatised, but that hour that you talk about, or those hours that you talk about, they really come across, don't they? Some of the guys can handle it, and some really look terrified.
Some can handle it, some can't, and women. On the whole, tend to have a much calmer approach to the whole thing, and men sometimes can go nuts, really, just at feeling that the person they love and want to look after is not being treated properly, or they don't sort of know what to do as well. And it's a difficult thing. I mean, there's a passage in the drama that's going out next week where I talk very frankly about what it felt like to watch my wife give birth. And I'm not sure it's a conversation many couples will ever have. I'm not sure it's a conversation that many men will sort of echo those feelings, but I think it's an interesting thing to talk about.
For people who don't know, it's on Sky Arts on the 9th of June, birthday. You're listening to Sheila Fogarty on LBC in conversation with Stephen Mangan. You can see Stephen in conversation with me if you wish as well. Radio's on the telly now as well. Live streaming on lbc.co.uk. What was interesting about it as well, when towards the end, when you had a monumental fight with your wife, didn't you, in this drama? And just you describe what that fight was about, because that was the point where I was starting to cry, actually, because it was so moving. When there was a point where you were trying to explain to her how you had felt and the terror that you'd felt and the strange newness of it all, and it was really moving.
Yeah, this is after the baby's born and the baby isn't in the room. There's something
not well.
going wrong. It's not very well, and we're waiting, and the darkness descends. And I think that's what's extraordinary about those few hours and days, is that you can go from wanting to die because the thought of something happening to your newborn baby.
You actually say that, don't you?
Yeah. How can life go on? How can and you feel that as a parent, that your entire happiness and stability of mind is now wrapped up in this little bundle, and if anything happens to it, you're finished. Not only is the baby finished, but you're finished. And you can swing from that to just loving everyone on the planet and
Which you did.
and feeling full of joy and for mankind and everybody.
Well,
yeah.
I mention One Born Every Minute, and my sister is a midwife, actually, and it was her hospital that this series is where that series come from. And there was a father I remember in particular, and there was a point where the actress playing Anna Maxwell, who plays your wife, reminded me of this father, where it was almost like it wasn't so much terror as a kind of almost like being left out, like not part of it because she's not doing anything. And there was almost like a deadness to the look of her. And this, I remember watching this father and thinking, oh my God, is he going to be able to be a father? Because he looks pretty useless from where I'm standing, you know. And the second that child was born, he just lit up, you know, and it was what you say. It was like that sense of doom and then that sense of joy within seconds.
Yes, and it's hard to know what to do as the person, you know, the supportive person. Obviously, you're not the one going through the very traumatic and difficult process, but you want to feel like you're contributing somehow. Or, you know, I mean, I remember my wife telling me not to look at her. She said, "Stop looking at me." You know, so I spend a lot of the time looking behind me and at the ceiling. And
my sister has a theory that there's always a point during labour where a woman gives her partner an absolutely vicious, withering look.
well, you got them into that situation, didn't you? So I suppose fair enough.
Were you on the receiving end of that kind of?
Yeah, I got sent out at one point.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean,
The naughty step.
I did. I don't think I was. I just was. It was just another thing that was just not helpful in the room. So she could, you know.
How did filming it? I mean, obviously it's a different process filming it and being on stage. But what was the audience reaction on stage like?
It was funnier on stage, weirdly. I think partly because on stage the bed's in the middle.
The audience is there in front of you as well.
The audience are right there. The bed is in the middle of the stage, and me with my big belly, and it's hard to get away from that image. But when you're filming it, you can go into close-ups and almost forget for periods of time that I am pregnant and I'm a pregnant
Really
man.
good prosthetics, or whatever you call those things.
Incredible prosthetics. I mean, they've painted beautifully, like not just the skin tone, but veins under the skin, freckles, there's hair on it. It's
What
a
did
sight
you
to
feel like
behold.
with the baby bump?
It's pretty cumbersome. What can I say? I mean, there are a lot of
You
men.
have a newfound respect for women.
Well, there are a lot of men walking around with bellies that big.
Yes,
you know,
without babies in them.
beer bellies. Yeah, you do think there's got to be a better system. I mean, it's just
There isn't, though.
There isn't, is there? But
You don't get the joy without the bump, mate. I'm afraid
you
that's
don't.
how it works.
And
yeah.
people have said to me, "Wasn't it tiring wearing that bump?" Well, yeah, but it's not as tiring as being in that condition for 9 months.
What I liked about it as well is, apart from the relationship between you and your wife and your fears and her fears and your feelings about being pregnant and giving birth, was when the staff came in a few times, there's the nurse coming in who's, this is after the baby's born, and she's kind of going, doesn't look good about the scar. And again, you see the scar. When I was watching it on my iPad, somebody in the office walked past and said, "What are you watching?" And I said, "It's just Stephen Mangan with a cesarean scar. Get over it."
A puffy, oozing cesarean scar.
Yeah. But
what else would it be?
I've actually just spent some time in hospital with a relative, and those moments where you're all stressed, but they're seeing things they see normally every day, and they say things like, "Oh, that doesn't look good, does it?" And you go, "What doesn't look good? What doesn't look good?"
Yeah.
You know, and that's
you're feeding on every tiny look on their face, let alone what they say.
Yeah.
There's a lovely moment when the midwife comes in eating something. And, you know, it's not really referred to. She's just finishing off some half sandwich that she's managed to grab on her day.
Yes, yeah.
But it's that feeling of, just it's another day for them, and they're overstretched. And, you know, the NHS runs a lot on goodwill. It runs on the goodwill of people.
And the scene towards the end, I mean, not to give it away because people will want to watch it and get the sense of, you know, the drama and the suspense of it. But when, again, anyone who's been helped in a crisis by a nurse or a doctor, your sense of gratitude to them and your awe of what they're able to do is enormous. And that comes across as well when you want to...
Yeah, the very person I wanted to murder 3 hours earlier.
You now love, want to kiss,
my absolute
and you think
saviour.
she's a genius.
Oh, she's the most incredible person in the world because she made my baby okay.
And any other things on the horizon at the moment that you're doing? It's always the way with actors, isn't it, that you've got a few things on at once? Or nothing at all?
Well, I'm in a play, actually, at the National Theatre at the moment, where I don't give birth.
You got your figure back, by the way.
Thank you. I've lost the baby weight. I'm glad you noticed that.
Was it the breastfeeding or just running around after little so-and-so, as the actresses always say?
It's not easy to shift, I'll tell you that much. I'm doing a play at the National at the moment, and that's on till early July.
Name, rank, number?
It's called, yes, that's a good point, Rules for Living.
You'll get in trouble if you don't.
And it's about a family disintegrating at Christmas. So it's Christmas Day. That's the weird thing about an actor.
You do pick your moments, don't you? Those moments in family life that everybody chooses to never talk about again.
Well, there we go. Another situation where everyone says this is going to be the most amazing thing ever. Christmas Day, we're all going to be on our best behaviour. It's going to be a lovely day.
Turkey's going to be delicious.
And after a few drinks and being stuck with the same people in the house,
you think I'd rather be giving birth?
Yeah.
Stephen, great to meet you. Best
Thank
of luck
you.
with it. It really was a great little piece. I really enjoyed it. But it's called Birthday, not The Birthday. I keep calling it The Birthday. Birthday, airing on Sky Arts on the 9th of June. Many thanks, Stephen Mangan, for joining us.